Now, the World Bank has urged the federal government to address key constraints impeding private sector growth in Nigeria. The World Bank asserted that reforms in critical sectors could unlock billions in investment and create thousands of jobs. Now, at the country private sector diagnostic and stakeholder engagement in Abuja last week, the World Bank's country director for Nigeria reaffirmed Nigeria's status as Africa's largest economy, despite the challenges facing its private sector. However, Dr. Diop noted that Nigeria receives minimal foreign direct investment compared to its potential, lagging behind countries like Indonesia and South Africa. Now, international finance and economic analyst and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar Mohammed joins me now for more on these conversations. Thanks for joining me, Mukhtar, on Business Insights.
Thank you, Justin.
All right, where do we start from? Where do we even start from? I think it's just been like a trend or a recent development of increases, tariffs, more tariffs, and of course a lot of reforms going on. Now, the NPA said it has not introduced a tariff increment in years, and right now it is, it is more than 15% of tariff, and everyone is shouting here and there it will actually affect everything. What are your thoughts, Mukhtar, quickly?
Justin, I've said it on your program, I'll say it again. I think the government is paying lip service to dealing with inflation, because about 70% of what we eat or what we consume or what we use for the consumption comes through the port. And so what happens is that we will see a hike in a lot of items that comes through the port, and that's what everybody is saying. 15% tariff increment. There is also another 4%. If you add that to everything, that's about 19%. And so when they are passing that bulk to the consumer, they won't be passing it at 19%. They'll be passing it at almost double that amount. So we will see about 40% cost pass to consumers, because they also have to make profit. They also have their own overhead top cost that they have to deal with. Remember that this is a government that told us that they're going to bring inflation down by 15%. I don't know how they want to do it with this current tariff hike, because that definitely will jack up the price of goods and services. Again, the government also at the point was thinking of removing tariff on agricultural item and also household items that are used by family. With this tariff, it shows that the government was not really serious about it. Remember that policy did not see the light of day, and today now we're having on that policy that's talking about us paying more tariffs. So I think it's not good for businesses, it's not good for the ordinary Nigeria. We just see a government that sometimes, when I want to say sometimes, are insensitive to the need of the people in ways to drive this economy, because we even heard from the former Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, intervening, and also the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry also intervening. And a lot of people have been talking about this, that it's not good. The timing is not right. Yes, you have not increased tariff for the past 15 years, as according to the NPA. But I thought, I think a gradual increment in tariff would have been better, even at the time that we're having good in our port authority. That shows the lack of leadership capacity, because they were not thinking of improving the port. They were just thinking of making revenue. And they said that this money will go into modernization of the port, and so will you be doing the modernization all at the same time just because you want to make? So I thought that if we have a visionary leaders in the port authority, would have done this increment gradually, and by now we wouldn't have feel the pain that what we are feeling now. And also the Nigerian Customs Service. I think just now you see why the president ran to the National Assembly, because he's saying, we've seen where we're going to have more revenue, and that you are now seeing that it's from that Nigerian Ports Authority hike 15% and 4%. So definitely, I don't see that being reversed, because again, it is not tied to budget performance.
Mukhtar, I understand that these are dire straits, these are dire times, very tough times for Nigeria economically. I don't want to play devil's advocate, but if I quote the NPA boss, right, he highlighted that globally, port authorities depend on revenue from operations to stay alive to their responsibilities. I know Nigerians cannot even afford an extra 1% increase right now, because everyone is feeling the brunt. We know where the shoes pinch. But just alternatively, what can the NPA do in terms of revenue generation? Because it is saying that somehow it just has to pass the buck on, households somehow indirectly. What do we do? What's the best way to go around this?
I'm not against them passing the buck. I've said it. I think they've stayed 15 years. And that's why if MP is saying 15 years before he increases revenue, I wonder why. I mean, before he increases tariff, I wonder why we are shouting at the telecom companies also for increasing tariff.
By
So it's all
50%.
about economic situations are not the same. Exchange rate is not the same. Cost of goods are not the same. So I totally agree that there must be an increment. I mean, at times like this, it's a global trend. But again, it's the nature of the increment that is my challenge. How do you go about the increment? You don't just do that, especially in a challenging economy like ours. Why can't we have a stakeholder meeting? Then you drop a roadmap. Is it 5% this year, 5% next year, and that 5% will be channeled towards ICT improvement in the port authority. Then the second one will try towards productivity, easy access and easy exit of goods and services. And the last one could also be tied to something, maybe security of or so you just try to make it seamless, but try to say, okay, we are doing 15%, but this is the way to do it. I'm not against them increasing tariff. Times are really difficult, like you said, but also in doing that, they should be conscious of the challenge of the people and try not to put the whole burden at a time.
Okay, let's just leave tariffs for one moment and talk about something that's also very interesting. You know, over time, we've always talked about public, private, and partnership in terms of development, infrastructure, and of course, government's dealings. But right now, the World Bank is telling the federal government to address the private sector constraints as regards making businesses work in Nigeria. But where do we even start? You know, most times you say when we talk about this, it will sound like broken record because over time we've been talking about, you know, the need to ensure a level playing ground for private businesses to, you know, to thrive in the country. But over time, that has seemingly been not the case. So what do we do? You know, the World Bank is calling out the federal government to address this constraint, but just where do we start from, Mukhtar?
We have to start somewhere. I think I keep saying that the key driver of the Nigerian economy is the private sector. So we need to begin to see how we can help that sector. But if you ask me where do we start immediately, as I'm sitting here today, I'll say cost of funding is very high. Interest rate has gone high, cost of funding is very high. There's no more expansion. Businesses are not expanding, rather businesses are laying off staff. So that for me is a good place to start. How do we bring cost of production down? How do we bring costs in terms of management of business down? I think that's the way the government should be looking and say, okay, how do we help the smaller business in reducing their costs? Either we talk about tariff, we talk about levies, we talk about taxes. You know, in Nigeria, you pay levy, you pay taxes. So the tax reform committee is trying to reduce the number of levies that you pay. I wish they could eliminate all levies and so that we know we are just paying taxes. So those are places they need help. They need help also in taxation. You give them a tax holiday for a sector that is struggling, like the manufacturing sector. They are struggling at this time because of high FX volatility. What type of holiday do you give to them? So those are part of the things. It will not be a one-off solution to everybody's issues, but it will be a strategic solution to each sector of the private sector issues that are there and how to address them economically. But I think one thing that is paramount to all of them, cost of funding is high. How do government reduce cost of funding to make it accessible for them so that they can grow their business, they'll be able to employ more Nigerians, and that they will be able to spread their prosperity at large, and that will be good for Nigeria.
Okay, in as much as the World Bank country director also talked about addressing the forex issue, which we have been talking since last year, Mukhtar, he also talked about targeted reforms in 4 key sectors. I want to get your opinion on that. He mentioned ICT, agribusiness, solar energy, and pharmaceuticals. He said that could actually unlock over $20 billion in investment and create more than 600,000 jobs. What are your thoughts, Mukhtar?
Fantastic projection. You know, I always say that putting it in document is different from really implementing it. ICT is one area that we need to move fast. Nigerian youth are very vibrant in that sector. Remember that the current minister also, Bosio Ayeni, I think is doing very well in that sector. We must commend him. Also, we see the technology map that is trying to build all over the four geopolitical region in Nigeria. But you know what happened to the one that they built in Kano during the NSAS, it was damaged. So I think in that side, they are really doing very well in the telecom side. We need to do more, improve infrastructure. The people talk about the challenge of right of way, high tariff, foreign direct investment. All these are things that should be addressed for that sector to move forward, especially the ICT sector. So ICT sector, yes, is a big sector in Nigeria. It has even expanded to the fintech sector, in the financial sector, and it's still expanding. And so it's a sector that government should be able to cash into and then see how they can play a role in that sector, either in helping them or either in their expansion drive.
All right, good one, Mukhtar. So I know there have been several reports on the economy in Nigeria, but this one was actually striking when I checked it yesterday. I just want to get your opinion. It said a report by Nigerian data company Mustard Insight has revealed that 44% of business owners in Nigeria reduced their workforce in 2024. Mukhtar, I don't know how much of your workforce you reduced last year, but according to the reports, the findings based on a survey of over 100 business owners, executive and industry leaders offer a comprehensive look at how the year's challenging economic conditions affected organizations of varying sizes. In your thoughts, in your opinion right now, Mukhtar, would you really say that lots of people lost their job, or most people had to reduce their workforce in 2024 as a result of the harsh economic conditions?
Just most people lost their job, definitely. We've said it in your we said it once again that when the companies start going through challenge, the first place they look at manpower, how to reduce costs. And so that's definitely normal for any businessman. If any businessman is going through challenge, he doesn't think of reducing production. He thinks of reducing costs. He thinks of reducing costs, think of reducing overhead. And when he thinks of reducing overhead, he's thinking of reducing manpower. So that's exactly what has happened. So it's not should be surprising. It should be commendable that they are trying to be afloat in business. Otherwise, some of them have shut down, and then all the workers will go into the labor market. But some of them are still trying and believing that they will float until the change comes. So I'm not too surprised about that. We've said it over and over that the current government, this current administration is not looking at job creation yet. It's trying to say, our policy of deregulation, our policy of floating of the naira, all this will in turn create jobs. But those jobs are not here. They are not here yet. And they are not going to come anytime soon if this administration continue like this. But they just have to be a change in between the road if they want the jobs to come.
Okay, so how do you now balance the production mix, except, or what would you really advise businesses as in how to balance this production mix? I know if you have to reduce power, somehow it will affect, the general production because you have less manpower, or, working on the production. How do you balance the capital, the financial capital, and of course, the other resources you need to ensure a complete production mix? How do you balance it? I know most people would say AI and all of that, but not in all cases you can use AI where workers can be used.
Justin, I think we have seen those balancing in Nigerian business. A lot of workers, they work from home these days.
All right.
They work from home, they give them days. 2 days on at your work office, the remaining 3 days you work from home. In short, some offices completely work from home. Those are ways of reducing those overhead costs. That means they reduce cost of diesel, they reduce cost of power also. That is huge. So those are part of the ways that the Nigerian businesses are trying to adapt to the new reality in terms of cost. So I think most of their overhead costs for those that refuse to sign SAC is all in the terms of not even having a permanent office. Now, it's not a mobile office where they also, instead of paying them transport allowance, they give them each month a particular amount that they think is sufficiency for their transport. They have to come to the office. I think that's the way most Nigerian businesses have thrived in these challenging times.
Okay, so just one final question before we go. I know we talked about Trump in the wake of his, season 2, as it were, but there's been recent development. I've not even had the opportunity to talk to you. Since we are talking about tariffs review and all of that globally right now, let's talk about what Trump has been doing in the past, how long has it been since January 20, just about 3 weeks thereabout he's been in office. What would you say the impact have been economically, specifically on Africa, as we round off, Mukhtar?
I think Africa have not suffered yet. we are supposed to be the little bride now for everybody, especially Nigeria. If you look at Canada gas that is easily got in the US will be slung with charges. So I think the US will start looking for new partners, especially in oil and gas. So that should be to our advantage. LNG also, we could see those one come to advantage. But for now, I don't think any of the things that Trump is doing is affecting Africa, except for South Africa, and it's in the area of aid. And if you ask me as an African, I think I'm very excited if aid was suspended for all African countries so that we begin to look inward. Because aid itself has been a conduit pipe for corruption. You need to see how much those people will say they pay to transport themselves here to stay in an hotel, which is what Trump is actually saying, which I totally agree with him that we must begin to think of how we can address our own peculiar problem. We can't be going cap in hand, calling it aid, and yet it's finding his hand into private pocket. That has to be dealt with. I'm so excited about what Trump is doing as regard this area. I might not be I'm excited with the kind of tariff because at the end of the day, Mexico is the hub of car production or car importation into America. And you know, American cars will find their way into Nigeria. So any increase in tariff also will be a cost in terms of increase in terms of the price of the price that you have to buy a car. So it will have its effect. But for now, those things are suspended, talk are ongoing. Hopefully that will end up well. But if it doesn't end up well, the little bride will be Nigeria. Our local oil refinery costs will come down. We'll have a new bride in everybody trying to do business with us. That will help grow our foreign reserve. That will help stabilize our exchange rate. But I think I'm happy that it will not come to Africa any longer like it used to be.
All right. Thank you, Mukhtar, International Finance and Economic Analyst and CEO of Finance with Mukhtar. Many thanks for all of the insight that you have brought on the show today. We do appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
All right, that's indeed the size of the show for today. Many thanks for being there. My name is Justin Akadonye. See you again next time.